The Ford Broncos, they have tons of room. I mean, check out this little window. It opens. I mean, what are you doing in there?
Well, I was undercover till you came along. I'm investigating this website of yours. Complimentary lifetime powertrain warranty, 2-year maintenance warranty, no commissions for salespeople or for managers, and a $25,000 lowest price guarantee. That can't be.
It's true, Barney. Guys, make the short drive to North Country Ford in Arab or Jasper, Alabama, where I promise you'll be glad you did. I'll see you soon.
Welcome back to Coffee Time. Get you another cup of coffee. Enjoy the rest of the program today. Keeping up with all of our candidates, we've got Sheriff Nick Smith here this morning. How you doing, sir?
Good to be here. Yes.
Good to see you. It's re-election time.
Yeah, it's come faster.
4 years.
Yeah, it's come faster than anticipated.
Wow.
Yes, sir.
And you're the Republican candidate, of course, for this will be your 8th year to serve this year.
Yeah, so this is my 8th year, so I'll be running for a 3rd term for sheriff this time, yes.
Oh, good. Tell me about your family.
Well, I've married to my wife, Tabitha Smith. We've been married to be 20 years in July. We've been together for 22 years. We have 4 beautiful children. You know, the election day is on May 19th, but there's also another special day as my oldest son will be graduating from Carbon Hill on May the 19th.
I can't believe that.
So I'm going to have to find...
He's graduating this year.
Yeah, he's graduating this year. You know, when I ran the first time, you know, they were just all babies, and, you know, now they're growing up to be young adults.
Well, let me ask you an offside question here. What does those kids and wife deal with the sheriff of Walker County every day and night?
Well, you know, we don't talk about, you know, a lot of things, you know, whenever I come home, you know, we just don't really talk about work. We try to keep it to family time, and we really don't talk about work very much. Yeah,
that's good. That's good. How many employees you got with the Sheriff's Department?
So we're slotted for 85. We're less than 85 now. Up until about a year ago, for several years, we had well over 100 employees. You know, at one time we had 104 employees. So that number's dwindled down. A lot of it had to do with budget cuts. You know, about a year and a half ago, the commission cut our budget, which got us to that 85 slotted number. So we can't ever go above 85. And that was when the commission was trying to implement pay raises for the employees across the county. And so our part of that cut was going from 104 employees down to a slotted of 85. So that's kind of where we're at.
Yeah. Okay. Tell me about the, I know, let's talk a little bit about needs and getting better and doing this and doing that. Let's start. I know every sheriff across the state, and we got 67 of them, have got stuff they'd like to do. Yeah. And maybe you got some goals you like to step forward in.
You know, we've accomplished a lot. If you go back 8 years, the jail was in very poor condition. I've always called it the equivalent of a third world country jail, although I've never been to a jail in a third world country. It was in very poor condition. We had over 400 inmates in the jail. Some of those inmates have been in jail 6, 7, 8 years without a trial. And that's significant because it puts extra burden on the local tax dollars here in Walker County. It's people sitting in our local jail. A county jail is not designed for people to be sitting there long term.
No, sir.
And so I've advocated over the years to try to get these cases moved faster so we can get these individuals, because I'd hate to know, because a lot of people lose the perception that just because somebody is arrested means that there was probable cause. It's not guilt. It means that there's at least on that borderline of 50% possibility that they may have committed that crime. And I would hate to know that I was sitting in jail 6, 7, 8 years because I was too poor to make bond, and I may be innocent and I'm not getting my day in court. And to get those individuals sent to prison faster. So let's find out if they're guilty. Let's take them to trial, find out if they're guilty, and if they're guilty, get them sent to prison. Now you're still paying, your tax dollars are still paying when they're in prison. But that's your state tax dollars.
That's right.
Your local tax dollars here in Walker County that you're paying for medical expenses, dental. So a lot of people don't realize when you're in jail, we provide medical, dental, we feed them. So that's a burden on the local tax dollars here in Walker County, the longer that they are sitting here waiting for trial in the county. So we have worked hard, the court system has worked hard over the last several years, and we average between about 130, 140 inmates. You know, sometimes it fluctuates a little higher than that, but that's a big step of where we're at. We've really have saved a lot of Walker County local tax dollars by getting these cases over the last several years to trial faster, getting cases settled faster, and really moving the county forward in that aspect. My biggest challenge, you know, we've put deputies in all of our schools.
Yes.
And that's something that was never done. And, you know, just people lose concept of how big Walker County is.
How many acres in Walker County?
Yeah, so we're 804 square miles.
Wow.
814 if you include the water. And I never really realized how big Walker County was until I was in the middle of Jasper at the red light at CVS, and we had a homicide in South Walker County. And when the call came out, I was like, I've not heard of that road before, so I put it in my GPS, and it said I was 48 minutes away, and I'm right at that red light right there in front of CVS in the middle of Jasper. Just to put in perspective of really how large Walker County.
48 miles from the scene.
Yes, we're 48 minutes. Yeah,
Oh, 48 minutes from the scene.
You know, and
Wow.
and those are challenges. So when I was running for office the first time, I thought about schools like Lupton, Valley, Curry, that were out there on their own. They didn't have a municipal police force that protected them. They relied solely on the sheriff's department. So those three schools were in my phase one of my plan when I ran for office the first time, because depending on where a deputy's at in an emergency situation back then, you was at the mercy of where, if that deputy was in Corona, it may take him 40 minutes to get to that, be that first initial on the call if he's having to respond to Curry. So we were able to accomplish that, and now we have the second phase was completed within the first year of being in office, and that was to have one on every campus at all of our county schools in Walker County. Our challenge today, and I tell people this, and I don't care who your sheriff is, okay? If this is not fixed, down the road you won't have a sheriff's department. When I took office, the deputy's pay was $13.66 an hour, okay? That wasn't necessarily a huge problem back then because all the pay in Walker County was $13, $14 now. Now let's fast forward 8 years, okay? I just told you about the cut that we went from 104 down to 85. Then they froze our overtime. Then we had more people leave because now they're stuck making $34,000 a year and they can't work overtime. So you fix a problem, you create a problem. But even with that cut, because we're in this outdated across-the-board system, and the county doesn't have the finances to continue this across-the-board system, so I've cut a little over about $1.4 million from my budget for raise purposes. Now, had that money went just to the sheriff's department, we're in business. We're probably one of the top paid departments in the county, if not close to our region. But when you take that $1.4 million and give it to every county employee across the system, it got us to $16.63 an hour, all right, which is better than $13.66. But now here's the problem. Every small town in our county starts out at least $21 and above. Jasper starts out at $22.48. They provide take-home cars. You know, that used to be the county's, hey, you come work for us, we'll give you a car to take home. Well, now every county does that. Every police department does it. And now here's the challenge that we face now. Most departments are now doing sign-on bonuses, so for lateral transfers. So how do you compete when you're $6 and $7 an hour in your own county behind on a pay scale? You can drive over to Jefferson County and make $10 more an hour, and you can go to somewhere like Tuscaloosa. I seen where Tuscaloosa Police Department was advertising up to $81,000 a year with a $5,000 a year sign-on bonus. How do we continue to compete with that in Walker County if we don't get rid of these outdated systems? Now, that system's going to be in place whether I'm sheriff or there's a new sheriff. And how are they going to manage those systems of keeping you know, one of the things I was campaigning, I was talking to the lady, and we got on this discussion, and she was outside raking her leaves. And I said, well, the best thing I can tell you is in law enforcement is this, is if that house across the street is paying, if you're paying $5 an hour to rake your leaves and the house across the street's paying 10 and the one above that's paying 15, it's the same job. You're probably raking leaves by yourself because everybody's going to go over here to where they're paying $15 an hour to rake those leaves,
Exactly.
those same leaves. So the job is the same. So put yourself in a deputy situation is here. I go, I get my training, I do my time, and I'm gone. We've invested all this time in training. I've got a guy that left me this last year, and he's been with me ever since my days in parish. And he's been at the Sheriff's Department for several years. I've probably spent $20,000 on his training over the last several years. That makes him very valuable to just about any department. When he walked in the door at Tuscaloosa Sheriff's Department, his pay going from $17 an hour when he was at the county to $34 an hour there. He doubled his pay overnight. And a lot of that had to do with the fact that we've invested all this time and training into him and this education, and we can't keep them because our pay scale is just so outdated. So that is a challenge that we're trying to correct moving forward. You know, nobody wants to be in litigation, and I am in litigation with the Civil Service Board and County Commission trying to fix this because I know where we're headed.
Yes, sir.
And the judge ruled in my favor the first go around that as long as I pay within the minimum and the maximum on the pay scale, that I can pay those deputies for their experience. Because the way it sets now is if you got 20 years experience or 0 years of experience, you starting out at $16.63 an hour. Okay, you get no credit for any experience that you're bringing to the table. And every department in the state is given credit somewhat for experience. So now let's look. She said as long as I can pay anywhere within that range, as long as I don't go below the minimum and above the maximum. Okay, so that 16 to 20, and that's the thing about our pay scale. It takes you 25 years to top out at $21 an hour. Okay, that's a hard sell when you look at somebody and say, hey, if you stay with me for 25 years, you're gonna make $21 an hour.
Come on.
Now, with the judge's ruling, this is where it helps on the short term. Is if I got that guy that works at Dora, Summerton, or Carbon Hill, and he may be making 21, but I'm in a better position to recruit in the fact of, hey, you can work for a larger agency, you have room for advancement, you have room to move up to investigator, you know, captain, sergeant, you know, different positions throughout we can get you SWAT certified, dive certified, we get you all these certifications, right? Well, if he's got years of experience, and I say, well, I can start you out at $21 an hour, well, now I'm competitive with everybody else. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
So I'm giving him the money on the front end. Now he won't never.
Experience-wise.
Now, yes, he won't ever go above $21 an hour unless they change the pay scale. But at least being able to give him the credit for that experience he's bringing to the table, and to keep that person, giving him that $21 an hour up front instead of making him wait 25 years to get there, at least will help us on the short term.
Yes, sir. All right, let's talk about jail programs, what's going on. I know when you said you started and you're getting there and getting there and getting there.
Yeah, like I said, we've, you know, when I first took office, Steve Odom, I don't know if you know Steve Odom, but he had come to me and talked about wanting to get a ministry program inside the jail. And obviously, I opened the doors. We have tremendous people that come in every day of the week that minister throughout the jail, make relationships, try to keep up with people once they get out of jail, trying to keep them on the right path to help them with recovery. Our jail was certified as a level 1 treatment facility. We've got tons of people that have gone to long-term recovery. They have completed long-term recovery. And then they come back to the jail as what we call peer support, where they come back and they're actually helping people in the same positions that they found themselves in years ago. But We have tremendous, we've had tremendous success with that. We've seen a lot of people overcome addiction through various programs that we have. We also have fatherhood classes, motherhood classes. We have we have programs to help people read. We have a variety of, we have GED classes. We have about 14 programs in all right there in the jail.
And they're working. And you can see them out. You also have a work group. In other words, they can work on the outside.
Yes. So when I took office the first time in 2019, we used to have a litter crew in each district, District 1, 2, 3, and 4. There would be a corrections officer and 2 or 3 inmates would go out into each district and they would keep the trash picked up. Well, because of those cuts that we talked about earlier, now we just have whenever we can get to it. So, obviously we don't have those dedicated positions anymore. We do get out and pick up trash every week, but it's more so, instead of being on a schedule, it's more so whenever we have time to break somebody free to be able to do it.
That's your outside work, folks. How many inmates do you, men and women, how many do you average per month?
We average, and I haven't looked at it lately, but we average about 2,000 bookends a year.
2,000 per year?
Yes, sir.
We'll divide that out by 12, and that's what that is per month.
Yes, sir.
That's a lot of folks.
Yes, sir. And when I took office, it used to be around 4,000 bookends a year.
Well, that's good.
So.
Special guest today is Sheriff Nick Smith. He's running for re-election for the candidate of Sheriff of Walker County. And he's our special guest. We're going to do each and every candidate, so it's better. The deputies are schooled and reschooled.
Yes, sir.
They have to come to you prepared, and then they're reschooled also.
Yeah, so, if we hire somebody that's APO certified, we still work on getting them. They have to have 12 hours of continuing education a year. If they're going to be a firearms, instructor or SWAT instructor or SWAT certified, and we have a variety of different dive certifications. So we have a lot of different certifications that they have to receive training in, stay maintained in those. But see, a deputy sheriff doesn't have to have continuing education, although we do it. The law doesn't require a deputy sheriff to have that continuing education like a municipal police officer. But because we value training, we do have them make sure that they do their training, 12 hours of training every year. If we send them to the academy, if they're non-certified, we hire them, we send them to the academy, they get out, they're under a 2-year contract. Now here's the challenge that you face with this 2-year contract scenario, is when they're in the academy, they're getting wooed by departments that are paying $30+ an hour, and they're saying, hey, come work for us, and they're applying for jobs while they're in the academy for these agencies, and usually they show up and say, here's a check for my training, and then they leave and go work. Yes.
So you go to the academy and they get recruited.
Yes, sir. And that's become a challenge as well, is that them being recruited while they're in the academy, because if we're getting ready to send 2 to the academy now, if we was to send 5, we would be lucky to get back 1, because they'd be recruited away. And can you really blame somebody who's trying to provide for their family, making those decisions, when somebody's, dangling $30+ an hour,
Exactly.
In less than an hour drive. So.
All right, sir. We got a minute left. I want you to look at that camera and just talk to the folks that are watching us today.
Okay. Well, I'm Sheriff Nick Smith. I'm running for a 3rd term for sheriff. I want to ask for your vote and support in this upcoming election. We have accomplished a lot of things here in Walker County. We have worked hard to make sure that we keep your children and your grandchildren safe in the schools. We have lowered the overall crime rate here in Walker County compared to 10 years ago. Our overdose rate from 2023 to current is down by 40%. Whenever fentanyl hit us in 2023. So we've been working really hard to combat issues that come about that we face every year. I always tell people this, is that in 2018 it was heroin, that caused us to be the #1 in the state of Alabama for drug-related deaths. In 2023, it was fentanyl, and we are combating the fentanyl through a lot of different partnerships with rehabs, through Faith and Recovery, and we've lowered that number down to 40% this last year. But there's always going to be a different drug, a stronger drug, and a more deadly drug right around the corner, and you need to make sure that you keep a sheriff that has experience and keep a sheriff that is dedicated to staying up with those trends and helping fight to continue to keep our crime rate low. Also, I want to talk about every vote. Every vote counts. When I ran the first time, I was 2 votes shy of winning without a runoff. So we had to run an additional election 6 weeks later over 2 votes. So don't ever get complacent and think that your vote don't matter, because it does. And I hope to see you on May the 19th, and I hope to have your vote.
Sheriff, thank you, sir, for coming in today and being with us on Coffee Time. Good luck out there.
Thank you.
We're going to be right back with more Coffee Time.